Going to talk about walking tours in Cullman. Drew Green is our guest today. And this has been going on for what, 3-4 years now?
It's been going on for about 4 years now.
Okay.
It's a state program, the Alabama Department of Tourism organized, and we're the only state that has simultaneous walking tours in different cities. And they all start every Saturday in April, 10 a.m. Every city that participates is the same schedule.
And there's a brochure available.
Yes, we have these at the
museum. Gives you the
museum.
list of all the cities, and everybody's got the same starting time, same dates,
Right.
that kind of thing.
And it's rain or shine. The only time we cancel is if the weather's dangerous. And so far, I've done it for the last 4 years. We haven't canceled. Got a little damp a few times, but there are all the other cities that participate. A lot of people like to do ours and then maybe check out a couple of the other cities
Right.
to get a feel for it.
Well, let's talk about the Cullman tour. Where do you go?
Well, first of all, we meet on the front steps of the museum at 10 a.m. We'll do a little introduction about the tour and the museum and talk about where we're going. And this year, we're going down 2nd Avenue to 4th Street, and then we're turning back and going down to 1st Avenue, and then we'll come back that way. And there's a lot of interesting buildings and sites along the way, and I always like to post some teasers advertising it, like we talk about a building that's not there but still speaks to our community. And you'll have to come on one of the tours to find out about this
So you're
building.
going to tease us with
Yes.
that.
And there's some interesting stories about Sacred Heart Catholic Church and the building of that, and we talk about the German Bank. Little interesting story there, and we always have it's the same route every week, but every week is different. We have different leaders. I'm going to lead one, and Greg Richter and Michael Sullins will be leading tours. They're both from old Cullman families, so they're a little different when you have different leaders, but they're different also just because of who's in the group walking. A lot of times we have people that have interesting memories or stories that we aren't familiar with.
Right.
One story we heard when we were walking past Cullman Banana Supply Building over near the warehouse district, and I was telling about the business and how it got started, and this man in the back raised his hand, and he said, well, I can tell you some more about it, and it was Noel Tidwell's son, and he remembered an interesting story about some surprises they found in the bananas when they were unloading them. And come on the tour and you'll find out what that surprise was.
Well, then also somebody had something about the Stiefelmeyer house.
Yes, one year Betsy Stiefelmeyer led one of the tours, and we'd always thought that the Stiefelmeyer house had been torn down. That would have been where the doctor's office is now, across from the Catholic Church. And so on the tours we've always said, and that beautiful 2-story house was just torn down. And Betsy said, no. She said the house wasn't torn down, it was disassembled. And if you come on the tour, we'll tell you what happened to it after it was disassembled.
Okay. You're just giving us all kinds of mysteries. We've got to take the tour to find out the answers.
Yes. And we like it's interactive, so we like for questions, and we like for people to share their stories, so feel free.
About how long does the tour take?
It's supposed to take about an hour, but I have never been able to finish it in an hour. It's just people have questions and thoughts, and we don't push to get through an hour, but that's our goal, so it's around about an hour.
If somebody has taken the tour before, is it worthwhile to do it again?
Yes.
Because you get additional stories, right?
And a lot of times, for example, I have gotten new information since the last tour, so I found out some new things. For example, where the Duchess Bakery is located, the 3 rooms upstairs there were at one time Schlosser's photography studio, and it's also where the the Cullman Library started in 1928.
Oh, okay.
And I had, since our last tour in this area, there was a man named forgot his first name. His last name was Sterling, and his daughter came by, and her sister had written a remembrance of her father growing up in Cullman and his dream of opening an ice cream parlor. And the ice cream parlor was located where WKUL is at. And so that's a story I didn't know before that I could share now.
people, is there a charge for
It's
it?
free, no charge, no
Okay,
charge.
show up at 10 o'clock on Saturday at the museum.
Right, and we have a handout that we give that kind of outlines the tour that's free for you to take. And one thing I'd like to mention that's a little unique about this year's tour, Jane Ann Hotmiller has written a new book. It's a Kindle book. It's called Barnwood and Lace. It's available on Amazon. But it's about her growing up in Cullman. And her grandfather and father owned Merrill Johnson Furniture, which was located where the City Hall is at today. And she remembers growing up and playing in that area, and she shared some stories which I included in that handout.
Very good. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you for having me.
See you Saturday.
All right, great. Come on.
Okay.